you start.
She was blinded by the light. Wouldn't mind if she was blinded by the left hand.
Or maybe even the right.
Like immediately right after a little coaching session. Well, good afternoon. Well, good evening. This is the neighborhood guys. Frankie 2 times.
Frankie!
What do you say, Johnny? Johnny Banks. Johnny, what do you do?
Johnny, you know what I mean? A little bit over here, a little bit over there. Frankie, how you doing today, kid?
You know, making sandwiches, slicing up cold cuts. You know how it is, Johnny. Fresh
Sandwich
prosciutto.
bags, baby. Sandwich bags.
You know what I'm saying, Johnny? Fresh cold cuts, a little bit of super side, prosciutto. Go right down to Arthur Avenue, say hello to Lazio, right at Casa del Mozzarella.
Type of stuff you can't find in stores. Not like one of them tribal wars, you understand?
You know what I'm saying? A lot of bonfires, Johnny. Got bonfires over here.
Speaking of bonfires, Frankie, I'm warmed up. Baseball, spring,
Let's
it's
do it.
about to start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What are we looking at, Johnny? What's first game Yanks playing?
It'll be against the Houston Astros in Houston. 3-game series. We're looking at our first 3 starters being CC Sabathia, Hiroki Kuroda, and Ivan Nova. So they actually ended up moving Masahiro Tanaka back,
into the 4 spot.
Which, if you remember, I actually suggested that, or just somehow making sure to not sandwich Kuroda and Tanaka next to each other because they're both right-handed Japanese pitchers who throw splitters. So it's good to give teams a different look. And even though Nova's a right-handed pitcher, his repertoire is much more of a power pitcher, a lot different than those two. So it's going to make their rotation a lot more confusing to navigate for opposing lineups. It's a smart move, and I'm glad that they did it.
I'm excited for this, especially for the opening day with Yanks, man. Especially the lineup they got, the guys they got over the off season coming in now. I'm excited to see the first game. I'm excited to see how our boy Beltran's going to do out there.
Oh, he's going to do great. Honestly, though, it stinks when the first day of the season is an away game because it's
in
like
Houston of all places,
exactly, one of the worst teams in baseball. So it's like,
and also one of the apparently the fattest cities in America.
Yeah, and I mean it's Texas. Actually their nickname is Toxic, so you don't really expect too much. But I agree with you. I agree with you though in the sense that when we have that opening game in the Bronx, it's gonna be
it's gonna be awesome. I
can't wait for that.
Cannot wait. Trying to try to go to at least a couple of games this year, especially for Jeter's last year. That's gonna be a toughie.
Yeah, I will say they drives the price of tickets up. The ticket
Big
prices
time.
were going to be driven up regardless, just because of all of the money that they spent on big name talent. But then you have Derek Jeter in his final season. That's going to drive the prices up just a little bit more. There was actually a few lawsuits to some season ticket owners on
they
StubHub.
were frustrated. I would be frustrated too. It's like your ticket price goes from like what 15 or 16 to 70 something per ticket.
Well, that's because the season ticket owners, they personally drove their prices up, and that's why they got sued for that, because there's like a certain ceiling that you can really only push these tickets up to. You can't take full advantage of the market to that level, to the point that you're banging people on the head as hard as you possibly can. There was a time where bleacher seats for the last game at Yankee Stadium this year, bleacher seats, Frankie, were over $400.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. They're like what, $6 a ticket?
Yeah,
$12
so you can
most?
find some for $5 out in the bleachers, $7, $12, $15, $20, depending on where you are.
And you got to deal with besides you deal with a low price, you're dealing with the crowd there too, because when you're in the bleacher seats, you're dealing with all types of characters.
A whole lot of hoopla. Yeah, but to be honest with you, one thing I will say about Yankee Stadium and the bleacher seats is that's when you get to sit with the bleacher creatures. And while it's not necessarily a sober event per se, it is somewhat family oriented. Like, you're not going to really have guys in Yankee games in the bleachers like cursing. Like, at least the organized fans, the bleacher creatures, they're not cursing out players and stuff like that. They more so just organized chants and things like that.
Or at least before the 4th or 5th inning is right before. Then afterwards that's when all the freaks come out.
Yeah,
the
especially
cursing and the
especially from inebriation. Even someone who seems to be a modest Joe ends up turning into a slobbery type after spending $15 per beer.
He goes from an average Joe, takes a couple of sips of that brew, becomes Mighty Joe Young, Johnny, I tell you this.
Or Joe Dirt, I tell you that.
Joe Dirt, he was already ingrained with dirt.
But you know what, man? One thing that I'm really excited about is the fact that so many people are underestimating the Yankees this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that season.
I'm just dumbfounded by how can you look at this team on paper And just know, this isn't even just a paper team. Look at what the guys who are on paper have done in their career. These are not people who are unproven players. Just about every single player on the Yankees is proven. Like, people will pretend that a big question mark is David Robertson as a closer. This guy's been one of the best eighth inning guys in the last 7 years, period. So now all of a sudden you change him to a different inning and he's going to be ineffective. I mean, stuff-wise, can he compare to Mariano Rivera in 1997?
Yeah, I mean,
no. But can he compare to Mariano Rivera in 2013? Stuff-wise, his stuff is better than Mariano Rivera's was in 2013. So now we've actually, in that respect, we've actually upgraded. I know that sounds blasphemous to say, but Mariano Rivera is great, not necessarily for what he did in one specific season. It's the fact that he had countless seasons, 19, I believe, to be exactly, of doing that.
Of just being the man.
But if you're going to isolate it and look at most recently, what did Mariano do and what did Robertson do? Robertson had more impressive stuff, and his ERA was better, etc.
And plus, I mean, it's not like you're saying he's going to be have a better legacy than.
No.
You know what I mean? More so, like, we got a better deal now because at least a vet left and put in place somebody who's going to actually pick up the pace.
And, and somebody who's actually become a veteran himself. Robertson is not in that category anymore where he's a new guy or even a young guy. He's not old, but he's not a young guy either.
Yeah.
And, you don't get the name Houdini unless you have the ability to do some magic things. And I'll always take it back to the 2009 ALCS against the Angels in Anaheim. I think it was the bottom of the 13th. They had the bases loaded and a tie ball game. If they just got one run in, the Yankees lose that game. And Robertson was called out of the bullpen in the bottom of the 13th inning with no outs, and he struck out 3 guys in a row. Like, he has that type of makeup. He's mentally tough. He's got great stuff. And anybody who thinks he's a question mark going into the season really is looking for things to question about the Yanks rather than objectively identifying what their pros and cons are, because David Robertson certainly is an over-the-top, hands-down, slam-dunk pro.
That's what I'm talking about. What else are you excited about, Johnny?
Well, as far as the Yanks, I'm excited about a lot of things. Their lineup, all the way from 1 to 9, you just have a dirty, dirty lineup. We started off with, Jacoby Ellsbury should be ready by opening day. But I say even if Jacoby Ellsbury wasn't ready by opening day, which he will be, you still have Ichiro Suzuki to back up Jacoby Ellsbury. So
just in case.
No matter what, you still have that number 1 spot taken care of. But let's assume Jacoby's in. We got Jacoby, followed by Derek Jeter, followed by switch hitting Carlos Beltran, followed by switch hitting Mark Teixeira. Then depending if they're facing a lefty or righty, you'll either see Soriano or McCann, like I said, depending on what you're going to see after that. Then from there, you will most likely see Kelly Johnson, Brian Roberts, and then last to roll the lineup over, you're going to get Brett Gardner, who was the leadoff man, led the American League in triples last year, who's a straight firecracker all around. He always gets the team excited, like when Dempster drilled A-Rod last year in Boston. Brett Gardner's the smallest guy in the team, and they had to literally physically restrain him from trying to fist fight Ryan Dempster. It just shows you what type of personality he is, how mentally tough he is.
I'm excited to see his year this year.
Oh, he's gonna crush it. Him in the 9 spot, pitchers are gonna feel comfortable pitching to him, and he's just gonna smack triples and doubles all day. So I'm really thrilled with their lineup. Their pitching staff, which was a big question mark, guys. It was a really big question mark. Ended up being totally fulfilled when CC Sabathia has been lights out in spring training. I mean, his last 3 outings now, and granted it's only spring training, but he didn't have a spring training like this last year, and it bled out into the regular season. His last 3 spring training outings, he's given up in total 4 hits, no runs, and 3 full outings. CC Sabathia is going to bounce back. Andy Pettit taught CC Sabathia his cutter last year. He had a lot of time to work on it. Now that's going to supplement his slowing down fastball. He's relying more on his changeup, which was a big out pitch for him when he first came to the Yankees. It recorded him dozens and dozens of strikeouts. Hiroki Kuroda, people always say, oh, he slowed down in the second half. Yeah, he did in 2012, 2013. But in the 2012 season, we made it into the playoffs, and he was lights out in the playoffs. So it's not like he loses it at the end of the year. Maybe he slows down towards the end of the regular season. Followed by Nova, who has the potential makeup to be an ace, as I mentioned in our show weeks back. As I mentioned in our show weeks back, ESPN did a piece where they talked about guys who are going to have breakout seasons, and Ivan Nova was one of the guys they listed. I think that's wise because he has that kind of stuff. Masahiro Tanaka has the best split-finger fastball in the world, not even just Major League Baseball. He has the best one in the world. He's going to be an absolute monster. And then you have Michael Pineda, finally, the guy that we traded Jesus Montero, who was actually
What do
here
you
on
think about
WICR. He's an animal. He's an absolute animal. Kid is 6'7", throws heat. In spring training, he's topping out at 93 miles an hour. Watching the regular season, he's going to be topping out at 96, 97.
Nice.
Devastating changeup, nice curve. Our team is just looking so good. Any Yankee fan or just any baseball fan is certainly going to be glued to the Yanks this season because this is a really intriguing team that somewhat reminds you of 2009.
Plus, it's the captain's last year.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you definitely want to get into that.
you can't forget that. Derek Jeter's will have his last year this year. It's really sad to see him go, but I think
I
that
don't want the Jeets to leave.
they got it right this time in the sense of Mo left last year, and they didn't really provide him with the adequate team to make him go out on top. But Derek Jeter, he was given the resources that the Yankees will need to secure definitely a playoff berth, and in my own humble opinion, I'd say the World Series championship. I think it may come.
Jeets.
I think it may come down to this year, the Yankees and the Dodgers. Don't be surprised if the World Series this year is Yanks versus Dodgers, which would be incredible. That would really make my day if that ends at like an old school New York. That's what it would be like old school New York. So let's hope that the chips fall that way and the Red Sox do what they're supposed to do, which is underperform.
Jeets the streets.
Jeets the streets. You see him sometime on 155th.
Jeets the streets.
Jeter, he's
You know, I
the
gotta
captain
say,
for the Wolves.
Jeets the streets.
He's not just a captain on the field. He's
You
a captain
understand?
because all the ladies. If there's a model in New York City, Jeets already hit a triple. If you understand.
You
what I'm trying to tell
understand?
you.
If he's saying it, you already know Jeets the streets.
He gets the infield grounder, and somehow he steals his way all the way to third, and then he's waiting for that sac fly because he's that guy.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's Jeets the streets.
Jeter.
All right. When we come back, we'll go through a little bit of football changes, and
Foosball.
then we have a special surprise for you in the third round.
in Russia. You surprise the surprise.
You
the
sup-
surprise doesn't surprise you.
The surprise and the surprise you. You will be surprised. We'll go through a little bit of football changes.